of this a little bit. I don't know if you saw it. Where it was like most Protoss were winning, but then they highlighted that Bunny beat Classic and ignored all the other results.
Oh yeah,
it was a funny thread.
I did see that one. We're on a Rataset Station. Top right's Red Protoss. He is BIG's ShoWTimE.
And his opponent in the bottom left-hand side, playing for Mouseport since the beginning of time, it is HeRoMaRinE.
Certainly feels that way.
Yeah, for sure. He is. We were talking about it. He's very likely the longest-standing pro player on a well-established large pro team. Like I don't know, because realistically, StarCraft has to be. You know, like it set the standard for the new wave of esports. So there might be a pro player from Quake technically contracted from back then somewhere, but I really doubt it, you know?
Yeah, no, they actually had a tweet, well, a couple months ago, maybe more than a couple months at this point, but they had a tweet basically talking about the longest standing members on any team. I guess it was like a little wave, you know how that goes on Twitter, where Mouse did eventually like point out like HeRoMaRiNE's been with us for a very long time, but I'm not sure that he actually was the longest.
Who would be longer?
Esports player. I actually don't remember, but I imagine there might be something in Counter-Strike actually.
Maybe
going from like 1.6 to Source to Go, maybe, I don't know, but I actually don't remember. I think you might be right about some of the lesser known but very OG esports, but I'd have to really dig to find that whole list again.
But even then, I think like you could even make arguments within StarCraft. Like for example, like I've been in Root since I made Root, which was at the beginning of StarCraft 2. But Root is not like a Mousesports team that has a presence like that. And I certainly don't pay myself. Like I'm not a competitive player. Like, is there actually another competitive player that has been competing for the same team 13 years in a row or something like that gets, you know, a salary and is continuing? I really doubt it.
Yeah, you're right.
Big real.
Yeah, you're right. 4,000 and some days now that I guess it's been a couple months after the tweet, but it's been a very long time. Next is actually Faker, which I'm a little surprised by. I mean, I know he's a staple of Q1, but anyway, we are definitely distracted. HeRoMaRiNE, a tenured player for sure. Absolutely, and has had some really big highs. ShoWTimE has also had some highs, but not as recently as HeRoMaRiNE, basically with HeRoMaRiNE's Katowice run a couple of years back, right? So ShoWTimE, yeah, he's won a couple of tournaments. He's been a big member of the German community, obviously, as well, but he's been kind of reaching after his true potential for a very long time, where HeRoMaRiNE certainly got close to his biggest potential by getting round of 4 in Katowice. So ShoWTimE, he's on the road here in this regional anyway to set himself nicely for Atlanta, but one more opponent to take down before he's actually in that top 4. HeRoMaRiNE, he already took him down 3-0 once. Wants to do it again here, easy peasy. A little early aggression, doing some amounts of obnoxious poking, but actually not too much as of yet. No scouts either from ShoWTimE.
Yeah, no scout. The Reaper did a nice grenade to get into ShoWTimE's main as well, so he knows about the starport and the potential for the Oracle that is now, or should be crossing the map. Now it is. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that HeRoMaRiNE is in a decent position here to hold. I'm a little bit surprised that there's not a bunker given the information that he has, but very good position on the Marines. Here come the Adepts, and now the Oracle is going to join them soon with the Zealots here to help. You need to pull SCVs probably, as he's now going to turn his attention to the Oracle. Here come the SCV pull, but it's a little bit late. The Oracle survives. One of the Adepts is likely to be taken down. Not even.
Oh, all right, that was on razor thin ice, I guess, for both players. ShoWTimE seeing an opportunity to maybe push that snowball effect. I didn't quite get it, and then HeRoMaRiNE, I think was maybe even sort of predicting a little bit more of a mistake from ShoWTimE, because you're right, if he had pulled the SCVs, I think that's kind of a no-brainer, but then he was like, well, the Oracle almost died, the Adept almost died, and of course, if you don't pull the SCVs, then maybe you don't lose any, which actually is what happened. So no SCVs were lost, no probes have been lost either, so that was a dangerous game for both of them to play, I suppose, but they both kind of walk away with a bit of a wash.
That is very true. Yeah, not a lot of damage found on the side of ShoWTimE. I still think HeRoMaRiNE, given the information that he had, could have had a much cleaner, easier defense. Like, he still has to lose a little bit of mining time from the SCVs and loses a lot of Marines in the process, where ShoWTimE lost a Zealot, and that's it, right? So maybe an Adept? So I think the trade still was favorable for ShoWTimE, given how much information HeRoMaRinE had to work with, because he could have easily just had a bunker, and none of this would be a problem to begin with.
I think the bunker would have to be awfully close to the mineral line for it to be not a problem, because the Adepts will shade past the bunker anyway. But maybe. I mean, I certainly have seen some Terrans do that, you know, just basically assuming that is going to be the attack the Protoss sets up. But yeah, it does end up working out better for ShoWTimE resource trade wise. He finally got the scout and what HeRoMaRinE is actually doing as well, by the way, which was that 3 racks first and foremost, not to actually attack with, which we say 3 racks, sometimes that's the aggressive build, I suppose, but no, actually just building up a very healthy number of bio units, now working on a 3rd CC starport as well. And well, because he has a 3 racks, he will be able to replace the Lost Marines, the biggest deficit of the early game here, fairly easily. Already certainly having done so, and now chasing after the 2 Adepts to try and even things up, but then the 2 Oracles swoop in, kill 3 SCVs, all on the gas geyser, I want to say. A little annoying, gotta fix that.
Yeah, very nice. Nice job from HeRoMaRinE as well, spending a stim to kill 2 Adepts, knowing that the shade has already been utilized. So nice identifying that and just keeping, you know, close enough that he knows he can get both, otherwise the stim would probably not be worth it. And now he seems to be ready to move out as his first 2 medevacs are about to hit the field. So here we go marching on to the other side. And yeah, do you think he's going to be able to find much with this? Do you split the forces, or do you just go all towards the you know, the main entrance? Or
it's hard to split forces with the build that HeRoMaRinE has chosen with his starport so late. You can split your forces on a different map because you don't have to drop into multiple locations on different maps. But on Radicet, it is very macro oriented. It's 3 base almost as a given, unless you cheese the hell out of your opponent. Stasis trap not quite working. But instead, yeah, in this map, you have to actually just go for the front attack, and if you drop, you'd be medevac-less on another attack. Should you do that, it is the direct attack, looking after those Oracles, caught right into the Stasis trap. Good bait there from ShoWTimE, who gives himself some extra time to defend. Now, extra time is great, but is it going to be enough to actually defend a budding 4th base? I don't know. That could be clicked on and canceled, exactly.
Oh, not even a cancel. That was a kill, I believe, as the Colossus is now out, but so are the units that were trapped on the Stasis. Now, a little bit low is HeRoMaRinE on his HP, so he might want to try to disengage. Gotta be really careful not to get blinked on if those stalkers have it available, and so he is gonna retreat by ground and stim instead. There's the blink forward. Now you could load up and get out. And yeah, nice disengage after killing a 4th and a few units.
Yeah, killing, not cancel. You're absolutely right about that. ShoWTimE making a mistake right there, figuring that maybe HeRoMaRinE wouldn't go for it, you know, or just misclicking at the exact wrong second. Either way, 400 minerals, that, I mean, was also a bit... It was a bit courageous, I want to say. Like, maybe a risk you didn't necessarily have to take, knowing that the Stasis trap was already a certain amount done, and that the big army was entering into a wide open field where the Colossus is a little less effective. Now there's a quad drop into the 3rd base. The Stalkers blink forward, kill 1 medevac instantly. Shield Bounty overcharge available as well, and ShoWTimE will absolutely be holding the 3rd base, wary of an attack on his 4th as well. But there really isn't. It's 4 Marauders, not going to be able to do very much, actually entering into their death at this point.
Yeah, it's that observer by the watchtower that gives him all the information he needs. These Marauders are misrallied straight up, so they're just gonna die unnecessarily. But yeah, beautiful moves from ShoWTimE, right? Like, sees all the medevacs move in and just leaves the stalkers, doesn't put them on the edge as well where they're gonna deflect the medevacs de facto, but instead puts them a little bit farther behind so that the medevacs are baited basically into unloading. And once they start unloading, once they're in position, you blink on forward, picks off 1 with 1 shot right away, so he had the perfect number of stalkers for that, and continues to do that, and you know, like, there's much less damage output than HeRoMaRinE was expecting to have right there and then. So beautiful shutdown from ShoWTimE to kind of equalize the game.
He's certainly making up for the 400 minerals lost in the Nexus, which he really established pretty quickly too, without any interruption. So that is back to, it is mining, it is fully saturated. A War Prism has gone unnoticed. I actually was a little surprised to see it. I saw it pick up during the drop in the 3rd base, but it is getting ready to do some its own harassment. Medevac drop as well, however. Looking for literally harassment. We know Wood of Mines can kill the entire probe line, but harassment at this point, right? Because they both have gone for builds that really play to the map, I would say, as far as HeRoMaRinE's fast 3rd CC, and then just being able to repower even after a not super great drop. Already onto a bunch of Vikings 4 at a time, already onto Ghosts. Like, they're perfecting their late game armies. So we might get that eventual clash when they both start to max out a little bit, and that's HeRoMaRinE right now as I'm talking. But they're also looking for that little poking and prodding, information gathering, and a little distraction to set up as well if they can.
Yep, especially as they find out and set up beyond their first 3 very well defended bases. Things are about to get a little bit more exposed as they continue out to expand out on the map. There are Disruptors and Colossus, but yeah, I mean, here's where open locations, and with HeRoMaRinE already being near maxed, I feel like he's in a pretty good spot. He has a lot of these Ghosts as well for the EMPs available to him. Gotta be really careful with, and does scan actually the trap that ShoWTimE was setting up in the main. The Widow Mines are going to drag a little bit of units and a little bit of attention there. So if HeRoMaRinE is paying attention and if he sees the probe transfer, he could easily deny the base to the right here, and he will.
Yeah, that's going to have to be a cancel. Yeah, okay, this time around, got around to it. Wouldn't mind still being a big distraction, you know, being able to kill, I think, the Observer, because that also got scanned. Very annoying, but finally going to get cleaned up. Meanwhile, the big attack, much more important here. HeRoMaRinE decided to go for it. However, it looks like ShoWTimE with the overcharge is going to be able to hold on, specifically with all 4 Colossus in tow. I imagine HeRoMaRinE pulled the trigger because the Vikings got a full volley out of, you know, what is now a weak Colossus, but thank you, Shieldbot Overcharge, for saving it. So ShoWTimE, I would say, still set up to defend against this. They also now has 2-2, so HeRoMaRinE no longer with the best timing possible, but the EMPs are fantastic. Colossus still doing the damage, though, even as they get torn down. That is now the question, can ShoWTimE survive without the Colossus? Another Warp-In should do the trick, but where is the Warp-In? As Stalkers come down, but there's really just not enough here. ShoWTimE also banking 1,000 minerals at the most inopportune time, and HeRoMaRinE might just win with this push.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the Warp-In is Stalkers as well, but the okay, beautiful Disruptor shot. That might just be enough. Another one now aiming for the Ghost will get 1 and a Viking, so with that, maybe there's a shot that ShoWTimE actually can hold. It was looking like it was going to be done. Apparently, the Zealot Warp-In on the other side, with that gateway in the top left-hand side, caused enough of a diversion that HeRoMaRinE was not paying enough attention to this army, and those Disruptor shots once again allowing ShoWTimE to stabilize in a game that looked gone.
Yeah, no, 100%. That was so many Marauders, you know, particularly that would have just devastated the Stalkers without any shield battery to really help them out. That Disruptor was a big difference maker. Perhaps in time, ShoWTimE also would have recovered, but then the question is, does his Nexus get sniped? Does he lose too many Stalkers before he finally reinforces as much as he should? And then it's a little bit even more favorable for HeRoMaRinE in the supply, maybe up by 20 or even 30. No, instead, the Disruptor shot and, of course, killing 21 SCVs with the harassment. HeRoMaRinE does hold on to a 20 army supply lead, but I'm just saying it could have been a little bit scarier post that fight. They do still have a very good army for both players again, I guess. Now that ShoWTimE has 5 Disruptors, I'd say that's a solid number, but a couple of more supporting units would be nice. You know, a couple Colossus, a couple more Disruptors, frankly, or even the Immortals, which you've been seeing a lot more of in the past couple of months.
Yeah, for sure. Heavy Marauder numbers are gonna start forcing those out quite a bit. A lot of Ghosts as well on the field. And yeah, I think if we replay that, I think 9 times out of 10 HeRoMaRinE probably takes it if he focuses his attention to the right side of the map. The Disruptors are gonna lag a little bit far behind here, and HeRoMaRinE is perfectly aware of where they are with a beautiful scan, so repositions his army accordingly. Takes a little bit of taxes here and there as ShoWTimE is trying now DTs to try and snipe a PF. He's gonna need a lot of them. He has them. So let's see if he can get it.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty easy. Yeah, not being paid attention to, not quite a planetary yet either. That's also going to cancel all of these command centers that are being slapped down, and the 200 extra minerals from the cancel isn't necessarily what I'm concerned about, but rather the interruption of pace, especially as the DTs look for further damage, which may just be happening here. War Prism also flying in speedy into the main base could be a problem, but ShoWTimE having his own problems, forced to once again, this time around, straight up lose his 5th base, which is getting to the point where he does really need it. And thankfully doing all this economic damage to his opponent and getting DTs into the main base. HeRoMaRinE is going to have to deal with this back at home before he actually decides to go for the killing blow, or maybe he's going to go for it anyways. Big Concave coming in 2 different directions. Disruptor's going to try their best to hold on. One of them does get a shot. He needs another one on the left side. However, he's going to find it. Yes, the one. He gets it on both sides of the equation, and ShoWTimE will end up holding.
Yeah, more medevacs than there's units on the ground right now, so it's gonna be difficult to snipe them just to guess which medevacs are actually loaded. And now the script has flipped. I mean, ShoWTimE with a massive recovery there. Yeah, sure, he loses the 5th base, but who cares? On the other side, he killed like 40 SCVs. He killed the PF that we saw just earlier then, and he was forcing basically HeRoMaRinE to say, I'm doing so much economic damage that you have to attack into me, or you will have just taken a slap to the face for no reason, right? And HeRoMaRinE is baited into attacking into a position that is so well defended that is kind of choky on entrance, and there's so many disruptors that some of them were bound to hit, but some of them it felt like almost, yeah, were too big of a hit, right? Like time and time again, disruptors have brought ShoWTimE back in this particular game, and this time around, it's yeah, the best position that he's been in the entire time.
I agree. I think a couple of them could have been dodged a little bit more. I'm not saying totally, but a little bit more. Again, instead of 5 Marauders, maybe more like 2. And then it really is a struggle once those are done with, right? Once you're done splitting away from them, once they're done having the actual potential, because the Stalkers just fall so quickly, especially the 3/3 bio. I mean, ShoWTimE also really on top of his upgrades. He also has been close enough to matching HeRoMaRinE. I think they've been equal in some of these important battles. And then obviously the shield upgrade now being a little bit cheaper is nicer too. But your 3/3 bio is just a hell of a drug when there's only Stalkers left over, and that could have been the situation. And some of the disruptors did their job. Now ShoWTimE back on the field, also catches some Liberators on siege. Some of them, not all of them. 2 of them still getting a lot of shots off. The Zealots getting massacred on that top left side, and the rest of the Protoss army does decide to evacuate, losing some of that very important fodder. 3 Colossus still alive, however, with Zealots reinforcing will mean that the Marauders cannot give chase. HeRoMaRinE has to be very careful with this army. I'm not going to say it's the last one that he has, but it's probably the last real potential that he has here, as low as he is on his economy back at home, to have such an army surplus.
Yeah, such guts from ShoWTimE there to engage onto an area that is kind of favorable for the Terran army, but just the fact that the Liberators are not sieged yet says to him, okay, I gotta take this opportunity. And while the fight is a little bit of a wash, what it does do for ShoWTimE is it resets that Liberator count, which is ultimately what would allow HeRoMaRinE, should he get max, to get a massive army. And I love this move from HeRoMaRinE because he's gonna get to set up for free, basically. And now, I mean, there's a lot of feedback available here, or a lot of feedback targets rather available. So the medevac, one of them is gonna go really low, but there's so many medevacs at the same time. And yeah, he has this position, but with the Colossus, he should be able to get whittled down to where he's probably gonna have to abandon it.
Yep, that's exactly what happens. This is a very scary position. You see Liberators siege up, especially with their +2 and lib range, but yeah, the actual potential of the bio isn't really there. They can't go any further, and they're not killing anything particularly important. Maybe the robotics bay. A couple of Vikings come in and actually add further complications. That's nice, but how long can HeRoMaRinE really push this? I mean, at the end of the day, he is stuck in a corner.
He is stuck in a corner, but now with the Vikings, at least there's an answer to Colossus. Before the Colossus could have... Oh, beautiful blinking forward to try to get rid of the Liberators. I would have loved for him to target down one of the medevacs if he could have identified which ones of them were loaded. And at the end, it's a little bit of a wash, but great moves from HeRoMaRinE. I was really questioning his position there because he had no right to be there with that many Colossus poking at his army. Once the Vikings arrived, it made a little bit more sense. And now the game continues to be in a very scrappy state where, I mean, ShoWTimE, time is gonna favor him. He is more spread out in bases. He has the greater worker numbers, so, and this fight is going his way as well. So this might just be lights out.
I think that it is. HeRoMaRinE is gonna have to tap out. ShoWTimE definitely having some moments of weakness, some mistakes of his own, but really doing well towards the disruptor portion of the game. HeRoMaRinE really struggling to actually kill the guy, not just because of the disruptor shots, but then also probably the strength of Radaset and macro games, which, you know, very long distance between your reinforcement point and any of your opponent's bases, unless you drop, which, you know, HeRoMaRinE did try, but the first big drop he did was rather unsuccessful. And the next big drop, I guess the final drop, wasn't as devastating as it could have been if we had the same kind of setup in like a main base, for instance. If 4 Liberators siege up on the main base ramp and then the bios just like wrecking havoc on the gateways and whatnot, that causes a lot more complications. But the natural was not easy to hold on to. ShoWTimE was really sizing it up, but it was holdable, as we saw.
Yeah, and there's not, like you were saying, like there wasn't very many valuable targets there to actually pick off with the bio, right? And the natural's mostly mined out. If you're ShoWTimE, you already have plenty of real estate elsewhere. So it's not even one of your important bases to to be mining, much less to hold any tech. So you can kind of just dislodge it slowly. Still, HeRoMaRinE had a good position with the Vikings once they arrived, but just not enough. I think the main problem here for HeRoMaRinE was really the position that he put himself in when, to ShoWTimE's credit, to cause the diversion with the DTs, then the extra warping of Zealots on the other side, and then that forced HeRoMaRinE to want more than the base that he originally went out on the map for, and that pushes him into that fourth base that's so easily defendable, right? Like, it's so difficult to go in through that little choke that they're like the little choke in the middle that kind of splits your Terran army into the disruptors, and there was so many disruptors waiting, and just a nice setup from ShoWTimE that he got baited into it basically and lost his lead. So yeah, beautiful moves from ShoWTimE, but yeah, HeRoMaRinE definitely making some little blunders here and there against disruptors to let him back into the game.
Well, let's get into the site delta for game 2. In the bottom right says the red Protoss. We do have ShoWTimE now up 1.
Beast. And in the top left hand side, it is for Mouse Sports, Big Gabriel.
I think the other problem is that HeRoMaRinE was kind of forced into it. Yeah, the damage was being done back at home, and if he had just tried to deal with that first, he probably still ends up in the same position, but given ShoWTimE even longer to try and warp in and hold. But then also that the split that he did have, because it's a neat little base, really. You do have some chokes formed thanks to the gap in the middle, but then it is still a concave if you split your forces, so it's a Terran player, so that's exactly what HeRoMaRinE did. His ghosts were mostly on the right side, if I recall correctly. I've taken another look at it, but it meant that he couldn't really have a lot of firepower to actually kill disruptors, even if he was trying to focus fire, which you're gonna have to like double check to see if he even tried.
Like 7 of them too, yeah.
Yeah, I think that might have been the final count. You're right, because there is 5 when I brought it up, and then I think he did make a couple more. I mean, and 7 is obviously a number that you're not going to snipe all of them, not unless the Protoss wasn't paying attention, and you got the head start. So that's definitely no question. But again, if some of the big attack, the big disruptor shots were noticeable and were targetable, a mostly Ghost Army on the right side, I would say, is I'm going to do it. But that's a small part of the equation. In general, I think ShoWTimE was prepared for that attack. So, you know, a couple of the disruptor shots already going off before HeRoMaRinE is even close to them really does add a lot to the overall battle.
Yeah, and that was the later battle, but the first engagement where he really lost the grip, he had no reason, like that, you know, like he was clearly not looking and loses like what, like you said, like 5 Marauders, and then on the second shot also a Ghost and a Marauder or something of the likes. Really, I mean, there was small numbers. Those 5 Marauders would have made the difference. I'm pretty sure you play that situation out, you completely ignore the damage that you're taking on the other side from the run-by, you focus on that engagement, you win it, you kill that base, you probably end the game almost every time. Like, I would bet on HeRoMaRinE to win that engagement 9 times out of 10 if they were to play it for from a resume from replay.
Yeah, 5 more Marauders underneath a decent number of Medivacs up against almost nothing but Stalkers, and the shield battery overcharge gone. Yeah, no, it was
so scrappy, right? Like, it was like 1 warping away from dying, like every time.
Yeah.
Even when he warped in the Stalkers, I was like, oh, is Stalkers the right call? Is what I was saying.
Yeah.
The Vikings are landing as well, right? And the Vikings are landing because they're gonna make the difference. Like, he's like, oh, I can kill him right now if I land my 5 Vikings. So yeah, that's really the margins that we were working with, and it was so sad, yeah. But happy for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, and then also I do want to kind of shout out ShoWTimE, who does, you know, tend to make the right decisions. He's pretty freaking good, by the way, going into Phoenix this game. But he did warp in Stalkers, which I agree. I was also like, I don't know, those might just get shredded anyway. This might be a moot point. But, you know, there are definitely times when Stalkers are undervalued, when, you know, their immediate value, Stalker versus Marauder, where you kind of scoff at them and go, oh, no, that's not going to work. But then if you do get to a certain size in some positions where, like, medevac energy is low, Marauders are already injured, so they're like, you know, 4-shotting them, I guess, or whatever it is. Then they actually are kind of the perfect solution, because the Zealots are just, they're so not microable. They would have just ran face first into, especially the Vikings landed, and then just really been nothing but time buyers, or at least the Stalkers, even if they only buy time, usually can evacuate as well. And you try to like make some type of scrap happen. But I talked a lot about that first game because it was interesting, but the second game is fully underway. Drop coming in. Phoenix will not scout it, distracted by the Reaper. And there are 2 Wood of Mines in this medevac. Not going to get particularly good shots.
not too good. The reaction was fast still, despite not seeing it. One of the mines is going to get lifted up, but the Marines are trying to focus fire. A beautiful lift up back into the medevac, and actually managing to evacuate after pulling the probes for that long is a win for HeRoMaRinE at the end of the day, but well handled by ShoWTimE too.
I think that was really well handled. ShoWTimE could have easily screwed that up. A very delicate procedure here with a limited number of units as a pros player in general, but then also with Phoenix Adept actually getting the lift on that first WODs, which I was a little surprised by. I thought it had burrowed. But then also, you know, being able to pull back at the right time with the Adepts coming at the exact right time and getting the lift on the second WODs as well. I mean, those type of situations go sideways all the time for very good Protoss players out there. They mistime the WODs pickup, they mistime the Adepts coming in to help, whatever it is. So, yeah, HeRoMaRinE does evacuate with his medevac, and that's probably the most important thing there. No, stranger to losing a WODs for almost nothing, Terrans here, but it is also great defense from ShoWTimE, who set himself into his 3 bases onto Phoenix Colossus, which I think we would expect from a ShoWTimE, but yeah, it's going to set him up well for the defensive macro game here on Site Delta.
No doubt. This Raven has just moved from an otherwise beautiful position that was kind of like on a high ground in case there was anything like Zealot Brambis or any proxies on the, right there. And now it moves away, and you know, like obviously it can still be spotted by the Phoenix, but it can only be spotted by the Phoenix, which is something nice in that position. So it could come in handy for harassment, but whenever it does, it's gonna die to Phoenix. So do you think you ever just try to get it something like Interference Matrix upgraded and try to bomb onto the Colossus or something like that, or was this just a sad Raven that's not gonna accomplish anything?
I do feel like it's kind of a sad Raven, but I also think that a lot of, especially maybe like Korean Terrans, would absolutely still just like YOLO with the Raven and Interference Matrix. Not going to be HeRoMaRinE style. It's going to try and go for a distraction, which ShoWTimE did see it, and is going to go respond with just a couple of Adepts. Oh, no, the Phoenix also going to respond with exactly what HeRoMaRinE wanted. ShoWTimE, I mean, only 3 Phoenix probably wouldn't stop this drop anyway, but at least it could have been on top of it a little bit faster. Full drop underway. ShoWTimE forced to recall into the entire Terran army. Oh no, the Colossus on the wrong side of the Nexus as well. Second Colossus will come in to save the day, but 1 Colossus dead. Oh no, only 1 Phoenix actually. 2 Phoenix, 2 Phoenix.
Oh my god, yeah, that Phoenix 1 HP, so it has to be microed away, but definitely would have liked to, if you're HeRoMaRinE, to kill it first. I think he probably thought that he had it, and then tried to evacuate a little bit too fast. Still, he manages to get out after picking off a Colossus for free. These Marines are kind of just attack moving or move commanding into this base. Gotta be really careful with sentries on site. The second Marines go for double dips, which is gonna work out fine for the first Stalker and maybe to kill a Phoenix, which is already kind of paying for their cost.
Yeah, I'm noticing ShoWTimE's mineral bank right now. He's only on 3 gateways. I think hit at a pretty critical moment. Probably was going to add some production on, or at least be more consistent with the production that he does have, but instead getting it picked off as it warps in, as it comes to respond. WODs to the 3rd base as well. Do burrow on top of the 4th mineral mine! 12 probes go down, and HeRoMaRinE is finding way too much damage.
Yeah, beautifully done on the multitasking here from HeRoMaRinE. I love the little moves of like, oh yeah, this medevac's doing good. Oh, you only got 1 Stalker there. Let me load another 8 Marines and another 8 Marines, who, you know, 1 medevac at a time. So income advantage here being shown on the graphs. And HeRoMaRinE spiking hard after those moments of just probe pulls and WODs connecting. So really good position for him now.
Yeah, ShoWTimE really was on the brink of being able to stop any of those snowballs. The loss of his Stalkers, loss of his Phoenix, and instead was just a little bit short every which way that we looked, and then also a bit short on the attention span to not actually be able to pull his probes. The Natural is now under attack. Now this is probably going to be all right, especially because the WODs actually do not fire on what they could have. Which actually, the more probes or more charge lots, but or would be charge lots. Sorry, those are definitely still Zealots. Twilight Council only just finishing.
Yeah, +1 on the way, but a ways away still. This Colossus pretty exposed here. HeRoMaRinE's gonna try to dive onto it, but luckily enough for ShoWTimE, there is a shield battery overcharge available to shield him for the time being. It won't be there next time that HeRoMaRinE applies pressure if he keeps on with the same pacing. So ShoWTimE has to be pretty careful as HeRoMaRinE is now establishing his own 3rd. Economically, he is going to be very, very happy. 10 workers ahead and mules to account for as well.
Yeah, that's pretty astounding for a Terran player who's also going to have an upgrade lead for the rest, I feel like, of this game, considering I think that ShoWTimE is going to eventually crumble, but this is the time to prove that his wall is made out of, you know, bricks, not paper mache, I guess. We'll see if he can do it. It is tough. 2 Colossus, only a third one just started, only on 2 Phoenix as well, which of course he's had to rebuild after losing 6 in this game. That is a hefty chunk of change. He finally has production. 8 gateways up, 10 actually in total when these finish, but no charge as the army comes in again with still an upgrade lead, 1-1 to just 1.
HeRoMaRinE now posturing here, denying the potential for a 4th base from ShoWTimE. Gonna scan the army, and regardless of him seeing the direction of it, he's actually gonna load all of his medevacs. Will that work out? It's looking decent right now. No recall just yet on the side of ShoWTimE, so GG will be called instead. And HeRoMaRinE, with a gutsy move to end the game, will manage to do just that. Beautiful.
Yeah, I think, you know, knowing that there's no blink in a game like that and really not even enough stalkers to fully take advantage of it, and then the Vikings could actually bully both Phoenix and Colossus, like, without losing time, basically, without losing any army in doing so. Like, ballsy, yes, but also I think HeRoMaRinE knew that that was going to be the game ender. ShoWTimE just kind of admitting it, forced to admit it.
Your cat?
Oh,
it's like,
what is he?
Oh, crazy. Oh, yeah. Wow. That's so cool. I thought the shelves were like not full yet or something, but now I get it. It's a playground for the cats. That's so cool.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I have debate on whether or not I'm going to keep it this way, though. I think I'm going to change it up a little bit. But
as opposed to putting stuff on them?
To moving them to another place.
Oh,
and then having like my
so
action figures and stuff.
I don't know. It's so
cool when she actually uses them.
Right, yeah.
But then she just stays up there the entire time.
Oh, I see.
They mostly just look like random decorations. So anyway, we'll see. 1-1 tied up now. HeRoMaRinE, kind of not really a decisive victory because it all didn't happen at once, but I did think it happened in one 30-second period of time, you know, like when those drops really started to get the damage every which way that we looked, that was really it. Yeah, regardless of his position beforehand.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he did so good on the multitasking there. I really loved like the decision making with like the loading the Marines time and time again with very little defense. It's so difficult to squeeze value out of so few units, but he was doing a wonderful job of that. And yeah, ends up snowballing in his favor and just the cleanest macro, right? This is kind of like HeRoMaRinE in a nutshell. Is like very sharp timings, good multitasking, and very strong macro to back it up at all points. Where he sometimes can falter when it comes to like the micro engagements and like, you know, like with the disruptor shots. If that had been Clem getting hit by disruptor shots, I wouldn't have believed it. Two times in a row, I would have been like, yeah, that's Clem on a bad day. But with HeRoMaRinE, his strengths are usually elsewhere and really displaying in that last game.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as a top-tier player, you have to have strength certainly everywhere. But I agree. You know, if we were to talk about who gets highlighted more in terms of micro, it's Clem. Macro, it's decision-making perhaps as well, HeRoMaRinE. And that last game, it did shine through. Let's move on to Hecate. In the bottom left, it is the blue Terran, HeRoMaRinE.
And his opponent playing for Berlin International Gaming, it is ShoWTimE.
Totally forgot that game, the 30-second process that I was talking about, kind of started with the Raven, actually. Yeah. So that Raven, it did look potentially sad, and as far as its direct damage, I'm not sure it got much at all, but it did distract those Phoenix. It did. And that did really help lead to the snowball that was, you know, not tremendous at once, but rather added up over time.
Absolutely. I mean, those Phoenix not being in position, the Adepts not being in position means you have to force the recall. The recall is like instantly a Colossus dies as soon as a recall, that like you said, recall on the wrong side of the Nexus. Like that is all the snowball caused by the Raven in that game, which also got to get 2 of his turrets down, which seemed unlikely to me. I think it got spotted early enough that I thought he would be intercepted faster. Gets 2 turrets down. That's annoying to deal with. You have to pay attention to that. You have to potentially evacuate probes or, you know, like do the right things to deal with it. And yeah, it ends up doing a lot.
Well, now we move on to perhaps a map that ShoWTimE will be a little more comfortable with again. I mean, Radisset really is, I think, the most macro map that we have, for sure, right? Because the third base is just a given. Very minimal delay on mining the minerals for that one. And then there's this huge wall that they actually made stronger, much stronger than its initial concept. So yeah, I think that's like the most macro and the way that it splits the map as well. But anyways, Hecate, also a big map, lots of bases, not quite the same defensive setup when you do take these third and fourths, but nonetheless large map. HeRoMaRinE did struggle to actually get enough reinforcements across the map in game number 1 to actually kill the guy. Disruptors as well being a problem, but we'll see if ShoWTimE can get there again. HeRoMaRinE is going to go for a third CC really quickly. Not in location, of course, this time, but still very quick into the second barracks. ShoWTimE would love to pick up on this, love to know, and he does know. That third CC is actually very scoutable. Huh.
Yes, indeed. The Reaper is unaccounted for on the other side, which means it's going to get a couple of probes, potentially, which is a couple too many. So the Stalker actually pops up to defend the last one, and yeah, just the one probe loss is not the end of the world. Still a few pulled off. At least the Reaper's going to die for his sins. And ShoWTimE does have the option for aggression here, but he is ShoWTimE. We were talking about player strengths and trademarks. Like, obviously, if he goes for an all-in, it's going to be executed better than 95%, 99% of players, but maybe you know, closer to 100. And even at the pro level, I'm sure he can do really well, but it's not his usual cup of tea. So would it work against HeRoMaRinE if he opts into it after seeing the CC reactively, or does he ShoWTimE it up?
I don't think it would work anyway. There's actually been a few games where we've seen even Max back, so I think is the best at a 4-gate. Try and do it versus a 3CC player, either knowingly or unknowingly, and it doesn't work. There's basically like a moment in time of which a perfect 4-gate can win against a 3CC 3-racks, but if it doesn't go perfectly right off the bat, then the amount of production the Terran has is a little too great. So I'd actually very much prefer if ShoWTimE didn't do it, and also because, yeah, it's not necessarily his strong suit. A little bit of misspiker right there, does lose the Adept because of it. But yeah, regardless, he does have the information, so it is up to him. He is going to go for the 4-gate. You know, you see a 3CC, you definitely want to punish it, but we'll see if ShoWTimE actually can. Like I said, I think it just revolves around that first 4-gate attempt. You know, the warping, the blinking. Does that go well? Great, fantastic. You can punish this 3CC. If it's like mediocre to bad, obviously, then I don't think it's actually going to work.
Yeah, but I mean, it's already not been mediocre. If we look at the units lost tab right now, it's 350 resources extra that HeRoMaRinE has lost. Just off of ShoWTimE identifying, hey, you're going for this greedy opener, you're not going to have very many units, you don't have a bunker, I can delay you, etc. And he has traded wonderfully, even picking off a Marauder there with the Stalker. So, I mean, this units lost tab is racking up further and further ahead. So yeah, like maybe if he just did a 4-gate from nothing, it wouldn't work, but he has already exploited his opponent enough that maybe there's a big opportunity here for ShoWTimE.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. It has been impressive so far. HeRoMaRinE really regretting not being able to get a bunker up earlier because the pressure has been so consistent. He also was not quite certain that it was a 4-gate. Now he knows. Actually, no, saw 3 warp-ins there. But the point is, now he knows he's under aggression. It looks like he was already kind of guessing because he is building a second bunker, which is still going to cause some problems for ShoWTimE, even though it's not done. But nonetheless, not being totally and utterly prepared from the get-go after already losing so many units, HeRoMaRinE is going to have to work a little harder to get to that critical mass of bio.
Yeah, and he's gonna have to guess as well. Whenever ShoWTimE goes back into the shadows here, he picks off another Marauder. It's gonna cost him a Stalker this time around. This is why the Marine! Oh, nice save on the Stalker. That was so fun. That Steel Marine had a dream. But yeah, I mean, he's also gonna have to guess whenever ShoWTimE goes into the shadows whether he's gonna get blinked on into the main or back here to work on the bunkers. This time around, it's the bunkers and not enough SCVs to repair the first one. Next set of warp-ins soon to go out. But again, ShoWTimE could reposition and go into the main whenever he wants.
You know, even though the beginning looked really promising, really up until the second bunker was finished, I suppose, and then it was like, oh, okay, I think HeRoMaRinE has this. I still don't know if I really like the setup for ShoWTimE as much as if he did go for a 2-gate into just regular third. But then again, to not apply any pressure of any map control against a 3CC player can also, I mean, be kind of intimidating. You know, you could go for the whole like, well, you macro, I macro. It's fair game, right? But sometimes it doesn't really feel fair against the first Terran push. So there is that to consider. But ShoWTimE You know, he did commit to a 4G. He did delay his third Nexus, even though it wasn't the most delayed. And the amount of bio with an upgrade that the Terran has is still really scary. And the economy as well, because they're only behind 5 workers. That's not enough, actually. The Protoss is still the one that's technically losing out once it's saturated.
Yeah, and HeRoMaRinE being HeRoMaRinE, and we were talking about his strengths and whatnot. One of his strengths is in that macro department and the decision-making department, and he knew how much he needed to hold, the minimum viable product to hold, and he transitioned very quickly actually into the starports. Like when I looked at his main, back into his main, like the setup that he has is quite impressive. He's gonna be able to move out rather early if he wants to, and that is when you can start, you know, potentially punishing your opponent for this kind of like semi-committed aggression where they also took a later third base that likely isn't going to pay for itself right away. So here comes the move out actually from HeRoMaRinE, and it is a scary force.
It's a bit of a small one, actually. He's left a decent amount of units at home or chasing down stalkers. I think he absolutely is aware that this isn't going to be the one push to rule them all. He's like very much waiting to get to the Vikings and Ghost part and then clobber him at that point. So there's not really, I guess, a reason to go out with everything you have and then open yourself up to the vulnerability that is the Warp Prism, which, I mean, when Terrans don't defend against this like this, you know, I mean, maybe I'm a little judgmental because I'm like, well, you know, Warp Prism, what a surprise, right? But even then, the units aren't exactly in position, so this is still causing some problems. Some SCVs go down. This actually could turn around on ShoWTimE, though. He might get a little too gung-ho. Well, yeah, HeRoMaRinE losing 9 SCVs? Wow. Yeah, okay, all right. Warp Prism will die, though.
Yeah, that was rather beautifully done, though, spreading the damage between the units that are being repaired by the medevacs and the SCVs at the same time. So not losing too many SCVs, kind of minimizing losses there. Whereas if you just tank with the SCVs, yeah, you kill the Zealots faster, you have more damage output from the units behind it, but you're not spreading the damage as much, so you're just outright losing more SCVs. That was cool from HeRoMaRinE to minimize losses, and good for ShoWTimE as well. Like, pulls back his opponent back into his main and does a little bit of damage for sure. So yeah, the game is looking open still.
It is tough though, because like I was gonna say, the mess around on ShoWTimE just because he's using so many Zealots, which, you know, he's not rich. He's getting there, but it did buy time. It would have been really nice if the Warp Prism somehow could have survived and threatened further comboed run bys and sidetracks. You know, now he can still run by, but it hardly works out. And in fact, that was a colossal waste of Zealots. But yeah, Warp Prism at least would have threatened elsewhere too. HeRoMaRinE would have been a little more hesitant, especially after game number 1, to maybe pull the trigger when he knows there could be a double or even triple pronged run by getting set up. But it is what it is. HeRoMaRinE does defend with certainly an economy that's totally fine, but then more importantly with an army that's spectacular. He will not have the upgrade lead, but he has a 30 army supply advantage, ghosts, and what is about to be 14 Vikings. Like, ShoWTimE's gonna have to be very careful about this, and well, once again, maybe rely even a bit on the disruptors. 2 of them already in play, 2 more on the way.
Yeah, EMPs are gonna hit the sentries to where there's only 1 Guardian Shield going out, and that's all that there's gonna be spoken of in this fight. Shield battery overcharge as well, a little preemptive, perhaps premature. It's gonna run out now, and already, I mean, now there's nothing to discourage HeRoMaRinE from potentially trying to go in here if he really wants to. The Vikings don't have a favorable angle against the Colossus, but there's so many of them that it may not even matter. Still, with the disruptor shots to zone, it looks like ShoWTimE is holding for the time being.
Well, yeah, maybe not. That's just so much Terran. The medevacs are almost out of juice, but there's not actually that sustained damage anymore. The charge lots get massacred. The stalkers are more, you know, target fire than anything else. And the disruptors, well, they gotta have a shot, which they're not getting so far. And they might not get, actually. Oh my god, HeRoMaRinE dives on top. He finds every single disruptor, though. So, job well done. The Zealots are gonna try and come in here to clean up. And I guess they will, just barely. But ShoWTimE did lose his third base. Will lose almost every single disruptor, actually. That's all of them gone. A Colossus might save his natural in third, but this was a lot of damage for ShoWTimE to take. A little bit of punish, little bit, but HeRoMaRinE chooses a good time to escape.
Yeah, it wasn't even a full medevac, sadly. I mean, ShoWTimE is still technically on 4 base, so he has that to work with, but losing all the disruptors like that, I mean, I understand the move, right? You move forward with the disruptor so that you ensure that one of them connects so that the army can't run far away enough. But when you only have 4, I mean, he definitely underestimated the amount of bio that there was to output the damage to kill all of them before they could all fire. And I don't think they all fired at the same time as well, or at least I didn't see 4 of them four of their beams all go out. So maybe could have done it a little bit faster. I'm not really sure. I thought honestly with no medevac energy that ShoWTimE was looking okay on the hold, but that last warp it never came.
It did impact the hold ability for sure. Nonetheless, the lack of medevac energy, because a lot of those units would have been healed up, well, not the Vikings obviously, but a lot of the units would have been healed up for some of the last part of the battle. The Colossus still was going to pop and probably in good time, but might have been a little more damage to find. Another, actually this time, real punish. Loses a medevac trying to drop on top of the 4th base, which that's also the scout, by the way. HeRoMaRinE, up until that point, didn't know that was there, but obviously was kind of thinking about it. This game actually, it quickly recovered for ShoWTimE because he got so quickly, not into his 3rd, but into his 4th and especially his 5th. It was one after another. It was very smooth. Has actually managed to look almost unfazed by the loss of his Nexus and the Disruptors. HeRoMaRinE now also outgunned, +2 attack done for ShoWTimE as HeRoMaRinE is on the run. And ShoWTimE, I mean, his supply is equal, but with the upgrade advantage, with the 5 base setup that he's going for, as he safely defended his 4th, no problem. I mean, that looked like it could have been game over in some other worlds, especially one where HeRoMaRinE doesn't take a big disruptor shot on the right side. I forgot to mention that, but I really did want to. HeRoMaRinE did take another big disruptor shot in the very beginning of the battle on the right side of the third base. He lost again like too many, especially because it looked like he might have even tried to focus fire at the disruptors, but then attacked pylon by accident. I'm not sure if that's the case that would happen, but it kind of looked that way. Anyway, then that actually might have been game over, but instead ShoWTimE now ahead in supply and on the march across the map. HeRoMaRinE totally unaware of this, might be caught in a very awkward position, does find all the charges with an EMP, and now finds the main army. But coming in to defend your base against disruptors that are already positioned, always a scary feat, but he's going to try and come in from multiple directions. 4 disruptors available, one of them gets a shot, the rest of the Bio army comes from the top side, however, which I'm not sure ShoWTimE was necessarily expecting. It's actually getting all types of topsy-turvy as Serral turns into the opponent instead, and HeRoMaRinE is going to be forced to evacuate with whatever he possibly can. Fortunately, it will be a decent amount, but only because there's so many freaking charge lots that are about to descend on his 3rd base.
Yeah, conscripts from everywhere. There are such a chaotic fight. Units that were set to do other things are called back from ShoWTimE, and it ends up working out by the looks of it. This Ghost exposed now to Stalker and Zealot fire, so they're not going to be able to stand their ground. A lot of them are going to lose their lives in the process. HeRoMaRinE eventually evacuates once the blink has already been used, and the medevacs cannot be punished. On the other side, 21 SCVs have fallen, and the Zealots are trying to do what they can, but they will end up losing their lives in the process. Still, after this, HeRoMaRinE does establish his 4th, has a 5th on the works, but if we look at the map, ShoWTimE has also done a wonderful job of keeping up and continuing to spread red on the map.
Yeah, exactly. These guys actually so well matched. Yeah, I mean, again, also the size of the map playing against HeRoMaRinE a little bit, not just for his reinforcements for the potential killing blow, but then even there being drawn out of position, yeah, and so many angles and opportunities for both players that you didn't get time to set up for, because it all happened at once without the observation from both players, actually. ShoWTimE might have had the run by set up to see it first, but even he was like, oh shit, the army's all over there. But anyway, 5th base does just get taken down there. ShoWTimE not in position at all to defend that, forced to give it up. Now back to his original 4 base setup, which I guess his 3rd, now his 4th is still rather healthy. And another 5th is going to replace his old 5th soon enough. But they both will be matched on resource potential, I guess. It is ShoWTimE, however, with the 30 additional workers. So the amount of minerals might be similar, but the one who's mining a lot more of them, definitely ShoWTimE.
For the time being, for sure. But if we look at the blue on the map as well, I mean, it's HeRoMaRinE that's done a good job for a Terran player, especially to kind of like spread himself out. Usually you need a little bit, you need less bases with mules and whatnot to get a competitive army. But HeRoMaRinE, yeah, he's lagging a few workers behind, but I think he's going to be able to get maxed out on whatever he wants just fine. What we are lacking perhaps is a little bit of a Liberator transition or something of the likes, but he has done a very good job of keeping up with the Colossus count and trying to add Vikings whenever he feels like it's necessary. And it's been a very competitive game and very tradey, where both players keep resetting each other's techs time and time again.
Absolutely. Also really big in that previous fight that was all over the place and mostly charge lots, so that +2 armor finished. Something that without it, I actually wonder if those mass charge lot plans would have gone the same way. I don't believe they would have, but yeah, with that +2 armor really helped out the mostly charged army. Now we're back into a more well-balanced late game Protoss army. Well, kind of, still 24 zealots. Darktron on the way. More upgrades as well, and a catch on HeRoMaRiNE's army.
What?
That was overkill, baby.
Yeah, I mean, they were dead. They were dead already. The only thing that they could have done is kill his zealots in the process. I'm not sure if he was watching, because he was killing the medevacs as well. So I'm not sure what those disruptor shots were about. I think they did more damage to him than to HeRoMaRiNE, and they were always gonna do that. But oh well, it's a high stakes tense game that's going on here. HeRoMaRiNE again moving unsuspectingly on the bottom side of the map here. That could be dangerous for ShoWTimE, as this is one of his healthier, most important bases, but he is looking to strike on the other side.
Exactly, ditto. It's a mirror image right now, as now HeRoMaRiNE should be absolutely gunning after the Nexus. He knows he needs to return the damage, maybe more than a little scared about their base trade, and he should be. I think that ShoWTimE, realizing that this could go in his favor, he could grab 2 for 1 basically, right, with the option of the recall. So that's exactly what he's going to try and go for, maybe a little bit more damage on top of that if he can, but a lot of reinforcements for HeRoMaRiNE still back at home are going to stop that from really unfolding. It will just be a potential 2 for 1. Actually it's a little more complicated than that, because he also wants to defend this brand new base that I guess he doesn't want to recall or doesn't have it. Oh, that's what it is. Okay, and it's going to be a lot of Nexus falling, and ShoWTimE is in some trouble.
Yeah, most definitely. The Disruptor's here to save the day finally, but the Vikings do a wonderful job in the choke against the Colossus. There's a lot of dead airspace there. And yeah, I love the move from ShoWTimE in positioning wise, right? Because as he's losing the base on the right, you're right, he says, okay, I can kind of base trade. And as I'm base trading, I'm actually going to expand on this side so that when I retreat, I'm also in a defensive position already. Disruptor's trying to zone off the army from flanking here, and HeRoMaRiNE will be deflected. So yeah, at the end of the day, I think I like it better for ShoWTimE, right? Because if you look at the map, there's only one base effectively mining for HeRoMaRiNE. He's gonna have to float his main right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was looking really dangerous when ShoWTimE was potentially forced to choose between 2 bases, but actually, you know, he absolutely should not have recalled, because then he would have been split too much, I think. And that base was worth sacrificing. The second Nexus was worth sacrificing to ensure the survival of his, you know, half gold mineral thing that the heck he has. So now he has a full mining base against HeRoMaRiNE's not very much mining at all, but an orbital could lift. HeRoMaRiNE does have a 30 armor supply advantage, but ShoWTimE has 2 upgrades on top of him, and the magic unit, the Disruptor. Not particularly great shots, but a lot of crowd control going underway. Vikings land in the midst of battle. They do get demolished, but the rest of the army for HeRoMaRiNE coming in on the right side, going after the Disruptors every single time. Going to get taken down. Zealots trying their best to actually hold on to the south side, and they will. But can they take on the rest of the Terran force? I don't think they can. Medevac still with juice. Army getting buffed up once again. Another Nexus falls, and HeRoMaRiNE knows that he is all in, and he's going to try to win the game right here, right now.
And he very much should, as the Stalkers are going to try to encroach here. The last set of Zealots are trying to do what they can as well. Reinforcements for HeRoMaRiNE as well arriving through the left-hand side, and it looks like this might be it unless these 2 Disruptors have something to say about it. 2 of them were already misrallied. This one surely will be paid attention to. This should force a lift on the side of HeRoMaRiNE, or straight up a kill onto all of his army, and with that, ShoWTimE has held and likely secured this game.
I think so. I think he was already so close anyway, actually. He still had reinforcements, he still had mining, he still had shield batteries to fall back to. And again, the upgrades really playing an impactful part towards the end. 2 upgrade lead to really help out what was becoming an increasingly only gateway army. Ooh, that was certainly down to the wire. I feel like if a lot of that bio army wasn't trapped against that pocket of the Zealots coming in, you know, if it was actually together on the high ground with the army killing the Disruptors and then balling up afterward, I think that actually could have gone HeRoMaRiNE's way. But his army did get dissected a little bit to the favor of the Zealots that ShoWTimE had warped in.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I know what you're talking about when the Zealots kind of go into the ramp and close in on a pocket of like 1/3 of the army of HeRoMaRiNE. And he ends up saving like 3 or 4 units, or maybe like 5 units with the medevacs, but that save was a little bit late. If that happens a little bit earlier and he manages to consolidate his army on one side, or even on 2 sides, because he was kind of split on 3, then I think he had the punching power there. After he got rid of all of the AoE, basically, I think he really had a good shot of closing the game. And yeah, I mean, props to him. The other option I think would have been, he was at like 170 or 160 supply or something. The other option is float your main, get maxed, and you have 30 SCV. So when you get maxed, you're gonna have a massive army, right? But I mean, I like the opportunity. When I saw it, when you were getting hyped, I was getting hyped. I was sure. Like, I wasn't sure actually, but I thought there's a good shot he takes it. You know, there's a good shot. It was looking good.
And when the rest of the bioarmor came down on the top side, it actually looked like it might be too much, but not quite. Yeah, I think the more that he tries to play that to a maxed out state, and he was kind of close, I guess it wouldn't have been forever, but still, the more that ShoWTimE can even set up a offensive position, when that buys time and slowly chips away, like a Blinkstock or Disruptor army might want to. So that's also why HeRoMaRinE was once again feeling the pressure, and I guess ShoWTimE's really been doing an excellent job in this series. Game 1 and Game 3, more than Game 2, but still making HeRoMaRinE make those tough decisions. Get into those really tough positions. Certainly not making the game easy, despite how the games might have started. But now we're on to Oceanborn for what could be the final game here. In the top left, we do have the red Protoss ShoWTimE.
And on the bottom right-hand side, it is the blue Terran HeRoMaRinE.
Both of them really forcing errors. Again, we had a couple of, or at least one, not canceled Nexus from ShoWTimE in that last game, similar to Game 1. For HeRoMaRinE, I think he has missed out on maybe 2 opportunities to maybe play the most perfect, micro ever, which I really do want to emphasize, even though we keep comparing him to Clem for Game 1, and I want to do a little bit in Game 3 too. Again, on the right side of that third base, he maybe missed an opportunity. I am talking about that 0.0001% better that you can expect from a human. That is just almost, unrealistic of me to ask. But there are maybe some opportunities for HeRoMaRinE that he is just that close to not getting because his micro is maybe just that tiniest littlest bit worse than Clem.
Yeah, I mean, when to put it in further perspective, Disruptors have gotten nerfed so many times because everyone that is not Clem can't, can't actively dodge them very well. So, and I mean, even for Clem, even he gets caught sometimes, and HeRoMaRinE does a wonderful job, better than 99.9%. But yeah, we compare him to the 0.1% because that's the man to beat. That's the Terran that's, kind of on top of the world right now, and that's the only fair comparison that you can make up for a player like HeRoMaRinE, because if you compare down, I mean, there's very few matches.
Yeah, maybe a Beyond as well, just when it comes purely to those types of battles. But just point. I mean, they're really pushing each other to their limits. It might not be their best games of their careers, but it feels like it's because maybe they don't get that spike of 100%. They're on the golden road. They're just feeling everything's perfectly. But it's because they push each other to the 95%, push them past what they might be playing in the earlier stages of this tournament, which ShoWTimE did 3-0 HeRoMaRinE earlier on. It was rather convincing, and now it just feels like they're really pushing each other to the limit. I would love for this to go to Game 5. That ShoWTimE has been managing to sort of eke out these wins even when it seems like he is on the ropes.
Yeah, it's really been a great series so far. It's been very, very highly contested. And I don't know. I feel like they are playing incredible StarCraft, and I think the games are fantastic. Maybe from their perspective, I mean, from the perspective of any player that didn't win the game, there's always going to be something that you did wrong and many things that you could have improved upon. But you're playing against this caliber of player. There's going to be mistakes forced, and in my opinion, that makes the most beautiful games of StarCraft. Is when 2 high-level players are playing well, but they're also good enough to force each other to make mistakes.
And now HeRoMaRinE going for a very early aggression build. 4 Reapers, 2 Hellions trying to come on in, but ShoWTimE is prepared for this. He's got a shield battery, he's got a couple of units, but then he also is very quick to the micro on his units as well. So already in kind of that fashion, deterring this a little bit. HeRoMaRinE just gets sight on what the technology is. It is Phoenix. He decides not to go for the main base, and this has been completely pushed back. It's at the end of the build here for HeRoMaRinE as he adds on a Medevac and a Cyclone. He still has units to spread around, which can still snowball, but ShoWTimE deflecting the first phase of this with ease.
Yeah, for sure. And good call from HeRoMaRinE as well, not to go further after this, because 2 Phoenix can lift off 2 units, and then the Adepts have an easy field day with whatever's remaining on the ground. So with the 3rd Phoenix coming online as well, it's a wise decision to retreat for the time being, but you're definitely right, he didn't find what he was looking for.
And well, maybe if he were to actually get a Phoenix, I would believe in his potential for a follow-up, but not being able to find that one. Does take away its shield at the very least. ShoWTimE forced to move away from his shield battery as well, if he actually wants to get his third base up and running, but he could always retreat and hold off on that.
Yeah, an unusual maneuver there from HeRoMaRinE, actually offering up the weakened Hellion first. So he's saying, like, lift me up. If you want this one, you can lift it up. But now actually finding a pylon as well, and that's a pretty good pickoff. Will depower 3 buildings in the main. The Cyclone does get to lock on, but now with the Immortal, he has to be a little bit careful. Though he can go into the main. There's going to be a few units forfeit in the natural if he does do that, though. So instead, he's just going to be a little bit more careful, try to join back up with the Reapers. And he is trapped here, HeRoMaRinE, so waiting until enough units die to try to evacuate. But remember, there's also the Phoenix to account for, so everything's going to get mauled here.
Yeah, he's at least going to grab a Phoenix for his trouble, I guess. Or maybe even 2, actually. But nope, just the one. ShoWTimE manages to handle that totally and completely. And that is the dangerous part of any Terran push into Phoenix, is that the punish on whether, if you don't work, like if you want to run away, sometimes you can't. It's a very, very tough call to make. It looked promising for HeRoMaRinE, especially because ShoWTimE was supply blocked, that third base pylon going down. But ShoWTimE, he handles it, he punishes it, and he's looking for a little bit too much maybe on the counter attack. But with his range and the Marines without stim, I guess he can be a big bully.
Yeah, no medevacs either, and if there were, they would be under threat from the Phoenixes. So I think it's warranted confidence from ShoWTimE here. Now he's taking a third. He is backing away, but I'm not even sure what he's scared of. Maybe Marauders with concussive shells or something like that could be punishing, as there's no War Prism. But yeah, I mean, that was a brilliant moment for him. He's got to be really happy, and he is definitely poised to take this game and the series. So let's see if HeRoMaRinE has it in him to recover.
It's definitely not over yet. That delay on the third Nexus was, pretty long, I guess, considering what could have been the plan. But HeRoMaRinE getting totally demolished on the retreat really doesn't help his case here. Phoenix gets picked off as well, so HeRoMaRinE opening up some opportunities perhaps for a couple of multi-pronged attacks. If the Phoenix is being remade, then something else is missing, or maybe you don't remake the Phoenix, you call it there, and then you get the drop in, something like that. But HeRoMaRinE is going to be hoping to find that one weakness, the one weakness in ShoWTimE's wall. It sometimes exists. Main base definitely looking like the target, but the Phoenix are there.
Yeah, and that medevac, I mean, it was looking juicy as well. I thought it was four Widowmines, but it was 2 Widowmines, 2 Marauders, so doesn't really stand to do too much damage on offense here. Instead, he's setting up a little bit of a bait. The medevacs are going to run into the Phoenixes. The Phoenixes are going to react, so the medevacs will take shelter near the Widowmine that is already pre-burrowed. And on the other side, HeRoMaRinE is also posturing to try to make something happen. Supplies are still very close by. 10 workers the difference, and HeRoMaRinE is setting up to take his own third, so by no means is he out of this game.
No, but he is not finding any further damage. ShoWTimE's really setting himself nicely into this 3-base setup, because one thing I'd say on Oceanborn is that it does get a little tricky to defend the entry into your natural and the attack on the third if you don't have vision on the army and where it's coming in from, which ShoWTimE does not. His observer's being used to the left side. So he gets a little bit of a split, which works out well against the drop into the natural, but then the shield battery that he positioned in the middle of his second and third, that was his first third shield battery, if you get what I meant. Third base shield battery. And it left the top side open if HeRoMaRinE somehow knew that at the time at which shield battery wasn't done, but he didn't. Now he's going to go for another drop in the natural, this time kind of like double committing, something that ShoWTimE might not have expected. Shield battery does go down, but the might of the Protoss army is good enough to handle this.
Oh, the Phoenix, careful! Gotta be really careful with those medevacs. They're not getting targeted. Now one of them is, and will actually die with like 3 units in it. So good job they're reacting from ShoWTimE. Very gutsy maneuver, very cool maneuver though from HeRoMaRinE, because yeah, he doubles down on the drop that just failed, and the same number of units is there for ShoWTimE, but HeRoMaRinE brought a little bit more. So it was a cool idea, but unfortunately for him, and due to that shield battery positioning that you were talking about as well, the army of ShoWTimE can sit in a very neutral position between the natural and the third, so he's quick to reinforce and shut it down.
Exactly, a neutral position. The only thing that would catch him off guard would have been more a drop into the main base, but it's just, even that is somewhat recoverable, because his army could also respond quickly up to there. So ShoWTimE defending well, as we would expect from him. HeRoMaRiNE is really trying to force these gaps, but he's not finding it. Maybe a little more delay on a Nexus once again, but a little delay isn't quite the ticket you want, right? Now, he could draw out the army and get a concave if he really wanted to. He does have the upward advantage, but HeRoMaRiNE is going to wisely back away. A bit too strong of a Protoss army without Vikings in tow.
Yeah, Marine's trying to stutter step, but there's not very many, so the Phoenix are going to survive, and that means you have to continue to try to evacuate if you're HeRoMaRiNE. Going to stim back for just the one adept as well. And yeah, like the main would be a good avenue. The problem is if you commit through the right, there was the Phoenix, and if you commit through the left, you're in so deep, because on retreat you would have to go back out through the natural, which means you're probably gonna, you know, like, yeah, it could do a lot of damage, but you also are kind of committing your entire army. There's no retreating with the medevac, so it's also a little bit more dangerous, as HeRoMaRiNE is gonna get caught here in the middle of the map, trying to unload. Maybe he'll have to pull SCVs here or something. It's looking rather dangerous.
Hey, very dangerous indeed. Still has the upward advantage. Blink seconds away from finishing. +2 a ways away for ShoWTimE, but he's got those Archons added in. He's got Zealots on top of the SCVs. That's not going to be a mining third base, and they might as well pull themselves, actually, but into the slaughter. If they do, it's going to be very tough. HeRoMaRiNE, a couple of EMPs to pop the Archon. Some Vikings help out against the Colossus, but the actual Bioforce is getting torn apart by the overall firepower of the Protoss army. This might just be it. ShoWTimE might be making it into the top 4 once again. Yes, he will. ShoWTimE with the 3-1 advances